de marketing técnico, autor y educador. Desde hace años recorre el mundo con la finalidad de dar a conocer las ventajas del empleo de Linux como sistema operativo. Welcome, John.
Buenos dias. Unfortunately, that is the last Spanish you'll hear out of me today. My name is John Maddog Hall, and I am the board chair of the Linux Professional Institute. I'm the founder of Project Kawan, that you'll hear more about today. And I'm the co-founder of Linux Lucus, which is another project that you'll hear about today. And I'm also the executive director of Linux International. You put all of that together, along with about 15 million pesos, and you'll be able to get a cup of coffee at Starbucks almost any place. So I have been in computing since 1969. That's before a lot of you were born. For some of you, it's before your father and mother were born. It's a long time, and yes, I am old. I've had different jobs, programmer, systems administrator, for large companies and small. And I'm proud to say that I think I am pragmatic, which means that I believe that you should get the job done. And because of that, I do not spit on people who use Apple products or closed source products. It's just I feel that open source and particularly free software is the way to go. So I have noticed that there are lots of problems in the world. And one of the problems that I concentrate on is the fact that in countries like Mexico, you send billions or maybe even trillions of pesos outside of Mexico to buy software and to buy hardware that you could be producing here in Mexico, giving jobs to people here in Mexico. And the money that industry and your government spends sending it to countries like the United States and to Europe and to China could be redirected to create even more good paying jobs here in Mexico. And so my talk over the last 10 or 15 years has been about this problem. One of the problems in the world of free software is that in the English language, the word free is a difficult word. We talk about freedom of religion, and yet a lot of times we hate each other's religions, right? I, quite frankly, am an atheist. I have no religion. And consequently, I have a lot of people who hate me because of that. That's okay. The problem, however, when it comes to free software, is that there's a difference between gratis, which means that you don't receive any money for it, or you don't pay any money for it, and libre, which means that you have freedom to do what you want to do. And this was pointed out by Richard Stallman when he said, free as in freedom, not free as in free beer. Okay? Now I know here at the resort you think that the beer is free, but it is not. Okay, it's all inclusive. Okay, and I like that part of this resort myself. But when we talk about freedom, as in free software, I think we really have to talk about the word control. Because if you talk to a business person, what they want to have is control of their business. They want to be able to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, and not have to wait for some other company or some other thing to tell them, okay, go ahead. Now, I worked for companies like Digital Equipment Corporation and Bell Laboratories, where we created closed source products. And when somebody reported a bug to us, a problem in the software, it would take months, sometimes years, for us to go through the process of fixing that problem and giving the binary to those people to help them solve the problem. And sometimes they never received the solution to the problem. And so what they had to do was work around the problem, which caused them maybe even more problems. This is a problem. And what they wanted was control of their life, control of their business. So there's other problems too I saw. Now, in Mexico and in a lot of other Latin American countries, these state and federal universities are typically either free with no tuition or very low in cost. I think the tuition rate of the University of Guadalajara is $60 a year. I think I got that from your website. That is virtually nothing in the United States. The university that I graduated from in 1968, the tuition was $1,400 in 1968. Today it is $23,000 per year. And it is very difficult for people to earn that much money to pay that tuition. But in most Latin American countries, for federal and state universities, the tuition may be free, may be gratis. For qualified students, we always leave those words off. For qualified students, students who worked hard in high school, who learned in high school, they took these entrance exams and passed the entrance exams. Those are the ones that get in. Unfortunately, 40% of the students who qualify for that free university still cannot get it because their parents are too poor to pay for the apartment that they need, the food away from the family. They're too poor to pay for the computers they need, the internet, the transportation, and all the other things that go into actually being a student at those universities. And while some of the students try to still go by working for McDonald's or being the night clerk at a hotel, those are not the things they're going to university for. And a lot of times, and I've run into these students, they get within a few courses of graduation, getting their four-year degree, and they give up. It is too hard. They stop going to university. This is a crime against God, and I'm an atheist. So there's also user problems. There's small business people who have to use computers, and they don't like using computers. How many people in this room are either in computer science or computer engineering or information science? How many of you like working with computers? Oh, you'll learn. Someday you'll realize that those computers know you're out there and they hate you. But these people who have to use these computers, I mean, I hear it all the time. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. My computer's just so slow today. Yeah, I know. But they can't afford to pay for a full-time systems administrator because they're such a small business. And they have no advocate for them to help them buy the information they need, the hardware they need, the things they need. And so they're at the mercy of the hardware and software vendors. They do not know about free software. They only know about this person showing up and saying, oh, if you pay 30,000 US dollars or 487,000 pesos, you can have this piece of software which will help you run your business. They don't know. And these are the small business people. The people that own homes are even at more of a mercy. I'm going to ask you another question. How many of you have been helping people in your family fix their computers since about the age of 8? Yes, these people come up to you, please help me put this application on my cell phone. I can't talk to the internet anymore and I don't know what happened. Yes. Because you see, people don't buy hardware anymore. Back in my day, back in 1969, you bought a piece of hardware and you bought a piece of software, but they don't do that anymore. They buy solutions to problems. My husband is a gamer, and he loves to play computer games. And but if he could play those games with 2 tin cans and his drink between them, he would, because that's what he likes doing, is playing the game. Okay. So, in 2015, I was in Brazil, and a student came up to me and said, how can I make money with free software? It sounds so strange, making money with something that is free, but he was asking a real question. Not, how can I make money with free software, being a systems administrator or something like that, but how can I make money with free software? And so I started thinking about that, and I came up with an answer, and it's called Project Kawan. And Project Kawan is an interesting project because I don't want one company or one entity that has millions of employees. I want millions of entities that have 1 or 2 employees. And those entities, those employees will not only be the employee, but they will be the boss. You will be your own boss, setting your own hours, how much time you want to work, how much you're charging for your efforts and things like that. That will be the Project Kawa professional, the Project Kawa entrepreneur. And so, just like you, I started asking these students, how many of you have been taking care of your computers for your family? And how many of you could change a disk? How many of you could change a disk in your computer? How many of you could install a new version of the operating system? How many of you could set up Wi-Fi in your house? Small business people can't do any of this. And they don't want to, because they want to run their business. That's what they want to do. They are shop owners. They are, hotel owners. In Brazil we call them pousadas, small hotels. That's what they want to do. They don't want to take care of their computers. But you, if you don't know how to do it, you search the internet for the answer. And then you go ahead and do it because you're confident in yourselves doing this. And you've been fixing the computers for your family and people in the neighborhood because it gets out. Oh, they can fix it. They can fix it. But then you go to ask for money, and how can you charge money to your mother? Your mother who fed you from a baby, who changed your diapers, who wiped your nose. Of course you can't ask money from your mother. But you can ask money from their mother. Okay? And this is what we're going to do with Project Kawan. Project Kawan, because you, as Oh, let's face it, we're computer nerds, okay? We're computer geeks. You may not like the word nerd, maybe you're a geek, it's okay. But we don't necessarily know how to set up a business. We don't know how to make a contract that's legal in our country with a customer. We don't really know how to find customers, and most of us are kind of shy and retiring. I'm shy, I really am. I know it's hard to believe it, but I am. But you don't know how to find customers because you've never done it before. You don't know how to advertise so that people can find you. You don't even know what a subcontract is. How many know what a subcontract is? Oh, look. Oh, you know how to change a disc, but you don't know what a subcontract is. A subcontract is, I don't know how to do what you're asking me to, but I'll help you find somebody who does. And when I do, I get some of the money that you're going to be paying them because I, what is called a finder. Okay. And you don't know how to make products out of prototypes. Because you will say, oh, I can take this and this and this and I can create a really neat thing for me, but you don't know how to take this and this and this and this and make a really nice product for them. And Project Kawa is going to help you do that. So we are the penguin on the left, and Project Kawa with the tie is the penguin on the right. And we are going to help you bridge that gap. Sometimes it'll be with the same person, yourself. Sometimes you may decide to take a business partner, somebody who knows more about business to do that. So Project Kawa professionals is what we call them. And these Project Kawa professionals will be high school and university students who sell products and services to a small number of contracting customers, i.e. the business person. This is different than what some students do, what we call break and fix. Break and fix is where your mother brings her cell phone to you and says, I can't do this. That is a losing business. Don't do that. Because just the time that you're doing your final exams, that's when 12,000 people show up and say, oh, would you fix this for me? You'd like to do it, but you don't have the time. A contracted business means that every week you have the same people coming to you, or you go to the same people to take care of their computers. You know how to schedule your time. And you also have money coming in at the same rate every week, every month, because you have things you have to pay for every week and every month, like your apartment, your food, your transportation. So a contracted thing where you work 20 to 24 hours a week with maybe 5 or 6 different customers means that you have control over the time that you work, nobody else. And this should generate enough living money for you to pay for your apartment, your books, and everything else. And it should also be cheap enough that the business person can afford to hire you. So how does Project Kawa really work? Well, we'll have a website that explains the whole project and the whole concept. It'll be the same around the world because it doesn't make any difference whether you're from Mexico or Brazil or Argentina or West Germany or India or any other. Then each country is going to have a separate place on the website that talks about the contracts necessary in that country to be able to do this work. Because each country has specific things. They're a lot the same. They talk about you, the supplier, the customer, who's the customer. They have all of that information. But there's certain small technical things. And plus, it has to be in your language. So every country will have a skeleton contract which will have that. In the industry, we call that boilerplate. The boilerplate is the same in every country, just in different languages. But then you're going to have individual things that you put into the contract. These are the things that you feel comfortable in doing for the customer. Anything that's not listed in the things you feel comfortable in doing for the customer, that's something that you subcontract, which means that if the customer really needs it, you can go out and form a different contract, maybe with a different person, to supply that to your customer. Then underneath of that, we're going to have maybe 500, maybe 5, maybe 20, maybe 50 different modules of what we call mentorship. Because we're going to have mentors for the students. The students who feel a little insecure about doing this, we're going to have a mentor help them get over that. And those modules will also help students work with each other. So if there's something you don't know how to do, you might be able to talk to a fellow student to say, will you do this? And I will subcontract to you. And over time, the students who are successful at this will become the mentors for the next group of students coming in. Now, one of the things I liked about the University of Guadalajara that I recognized recently is that you're not just a university, because only half of your 329,000 students are university students. The other half are high school students. And so we can start Project Kawa back in the high school. And by the time the high school students become university students, they understand how to do it, and they understand how to get that money out for university. And I'll be talking to you later about this, Alex. So let's talk about some of the products that we create, because we've run several pilots of this. We'll talk about that later. And the student said to me, oh, Maddog, it was great doing just the services, but we want to sell something. Okay, so then I started thinking about the second part of the problem, or the first, which is you're sending way too much money outside of your country to other places. So these are the 4 projects. We'll go over each one of them individually. But we have more, because these are only the 4 that we've thought about at this point. There's over 400,000 software projects out on the internet that are free and open source, and that could create new products for you to sell. But let's just talk about these. Oh, this is where I found out from the PCPs that they wanted the products. And I started thinking about Debian as one of the main distributions of Linux and how many things it actually does. There are 29,000 different modules, or what do you want to call them? I'm sorry, I haven't been a blank. 29 applications, we'll go with applications. Thank you. 29,000, they're not all applications, but 29,000 different things you can pull down from Debian to do things with. But when you go further than that, and you look out on the internet, SourceForge, GitHub, and all the rest of them, there's over 400,000, and there's 26 million different developers who are working on that. I heard the word Microsoft mentioned before. Let's take a look at Microsoft. They have 70,000 employees working for Microsoft. Out of the 70,000 employees, do you think all of them are software people? No. Some of them paint lines on the parking lots in front of the building. Some of them are security guards. Some of them work in the cafeteria. Some of them put software in the boxes, and others take software out of boxes. So if you look at the number of people in Microsoft who actually have the name software engineer, it's about 6,000. Compare that to 26 million. And people say to me, oh, Maddog, there's 26 million. They don't work software all the time. Well, no. Neither do the 7,000 people at Microsoft. They attend meetings. They have vacations. They do all sorts of things. Oh, Microsoft, there's 26 million people. They're not professionals. Let's take a look at the word professional for a little bit. Okay. How many of you, or you either play or you like soccer, or football, as you say in Mexico? Football. Yeah, okay. Now, in the United States, we have professional football players, and then we have amateur football players. And the only difference between them really is that professionals get paid to play a game. Okay? I can think of, and particularly in Brazil, my husband Hugo's native country, that there are amateur soccer players or football players who are even better than professional ones. It's just they didn't get a chance to be a professional. Certainly there are amateur painters that are just as good as professional painters. Amateur musicians that are just as good as professional musicians. It's just they didn't have the chance. And so I say there's a lot of software out there that can be put together into products that can be sold. And there's a lot of very small little computers like the Raspberry Pi, like the Caninos Lucas Labrador that I've been working on in Brazil, that cost just a few thousand pesos, but yet are as powerful, more powerful than the computers I worked on in the first 15 years of my programming life. And so if you think about those things and you think about the fact that those computers could be designed and built and manufactured in Mexico, creating jobs for Mexicans, then I think you begin to see why I like Project Taiwan. So let's talk about the first one. Odoo. How many of you know about Odoo? That's good, but not enough. Odoo is what we call a ERP system, Enterprise Resource Planning System. It does things like inventory control, management of your customers, customer management system, CMS, okay? It does things like help you set up a website, how you do lots of things. And there are companies that sell ERP systems. You may have heard of them. SAP, Oracle, okay? Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Systems. They sell them, but only proprietary binary systems. You can't see how they are created. You can't change them as a customer. You have to pay money to these companies to make them. Odoo is an open source system. You can pull the source code down from the internet for free. You can actually pull down binary copies for free if you want to, but you have the source code available to you. And it's, you can build an ERP system at a fraction of the cost. I did it recently at the University of Sao Paulo. Total cost of the hardware was $500, and the software was free. That gave me a point of sale system, which we'll see in a moment, equivalent to some of the ones sold by Oracle for $30,000 US to start. That's just the software. The hardware is even more. And so if you're say a small company or a small store and you have 3 of these systems, you're spending a huge amount of money when you could be getting the same thing for Odoo. And Odoo runs on top of Debian, and therefore it runs on top of a lot of these small systems I've been talking about. And there are also hundreds of what we call second-level support companies around the world. In Brazil alone, there's 9 different Odoo support companies. Now, what do I mean by second-level support? Second-level support is what happens when you call up some company. You say, hello, I've called your support line. And then you hear music for the first 20 or 30 minutes. Are you still there? We'll be with you in a moment. And then you get the person on the phone and you start talking to them. Believe me, there is nothing more frustrating than me talking to one of these people, because I have been in the computer industry for over 50 years. They just started last week. And I'm talking to them, and after about 5 minutes of talking to them, they say, let me get you my boss. And then we start to go up the chain. So those people, the first person you talk to, that's a first level support person. And they're just a first level support person. So these companies may spend hours on the phone with the customer trying to fix the problem and still not be able to do it. And what do? They then get in a car and they drive for 2 hours to get to the customer site and find out that the customer's mouse hasn't been plugged in. And then 2 hours to come back. So I talked to them about the concept of having a university student being that first level of contact, who actually goes to the customer site, who actually sees in the first 5 minutes that the mouse is not plugged in. And these customers say to me, God, please help me do this. I said, God can't help you because I'm an atheist. So these people would provide second level support to you. These might be some of the people you would subcontract to if you could not fix the problem. But this, all up until now, I've been talking about the ERP system. Let's talk about the other half, the point of sale terminal. You go into McDonald's and you see in front of you an LCD screen, you see a printer, you see this is known as a point of sale terminal. Recently you see kiosks that you as a customer touch these things. That is a point of sale terminal. All of these you can make with Odoo for free. The software is free, okay? The hardware is things you can buy off the internet. This person to the right in the bottom, he has set up a small point of sale system with using Odoo. The hardware I purchased for that over the internet and had it shipped to him. And it cost less than $500. A hand scanner, a scale, a printer, a cash drawer that opens up when, to allow you to collect the money or give the change, all these things. This would allow you to create this point of sale and ERP system for customers. But more importantly, you could change the software to meet their needs. You can't do that with Oracle. You can't do that with Hewlett-Packard. You can't do that. Oh, you certainly can't do that with SAP. Okay? This is something that you could do. Here's another concept of a product. How many of you store your data on Google or Amazon or stuff like that? Oh, foolish people. Why do I say that? I come from the United States. It's a very strange country, okay? But we have this one thing called our Constitution, which supposedly protects us from our government spying on us. And it works somewhat okay. Unless, of course, I'm talking with one of you. Because as long as I'm talking with one of you, well, you could be a terrorist. And that will allow them to look at our conversation even though I'm a US citizen. And it gets worse than that. You want to store your data in a company that has headquarters in the United States. You think that maybe the laws of the United States will protect you. No, it won't, okay? And all that those entities, I dare not say their name, they only have 3 letters, like NSA, FBI, CIA, all of those will simply go to a judge and say, they're not a US citizen. And the judge will say, yep, okay. And those companies, headquartered in the United States, have one of 2 choices. Give them the data they want, or the CEO goes to jail. There are no other choices, okay? This is why you have to store your most secret and precious of information in a country that's under your laws. Now, they may not be perfect laws, but at least they're your laws, okay? And your lawyers can help you if you have a problem. There's no lawyer in the, well, maybe there's a couple in the United States that would help you, but they're all defending Donald Trump. So, they came about this project called Freedom Box. It's a concept of having a very secure server that runs on one of these small little computers, like the Raspberry Pi, and dozens of others. And you can see all of the software in the system, and you can see all of the hardware and how it's built. And you have the knowledge of what is in that system. And you can make that as secure as you want. And because these little boxes only work off of 10 watts, you plug them into your wall, and you have a secure system. Now, you can have a secure system just for yourself, or you can put a little bit more software on top of it, like Nextcloud, which gives you something like Google Docs, okay? And you can put, the Fediverse, not party software on there, like Diaspora, and you can start to have a community-wide server that's very secure, and none of the data and none of the software is in the United States. Go ahead, store your cat pictures on Google. Google's great for storing cat pictures, okay? Or pictures of dogs or other things like that. But the most important thing that you should be keeping is your financial information, your social security information, things like that. There's also something like a multi-factor identification key, multi-factor identification. Your first level of authentication is your login name and your password. Your second level might be your scan of your fingerprints or your face. The third level of authentication might be what time are you trying to access the system? Is it between the hours of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday? If somebody's coming in at midnight on Saturday, they're probably not you. It might be my husband, but. So in any case, these are all levels of authentication, and one level of authentication is a hardwired device, a hardware device called a key, which you would plug into your laptop or authenticate to your phone to say, yes, I am me. Solo Keys is a company in the United States who makes a completely open key. They publish the hardware diagram, they publish the software, it's all open source, you can pull it down. You don't have to even talk to them to manufacture this inside of Mexico. It's okay. And so these are one of the people I'm trying to deal with Project Kawan. How many of you have a nice stereo or multimedia system at home? How many of you use Kodi at all or know about Kodi? Okay, I see you have a nice system and you know about Kodi. Okay. So this is another thing that you could do for people. You could build a multimedia system for them using a Raspberry Pi or other SBC and plug that into a digital amplifier and an LCD screen or an LCD projector, and you can create a nice multimedia system. You could also use this as a first connection to the internet for people that don't have much money. They don't have to buy a desktop PC and this and that. This one thing could do their music, show their videos, store their pictures, store their data and everything, but also give them that first connection to the internet. You could also use that to control their house using software called HomeAssistant.io. How many people have heard about Home Assistant? Not as many people, but okay. Home Assistant is the second largest project on the internet after only the Linux operating system in general, okay? There's 80,000 people contributing to Home Assistant, and that allows you to control the lights in your house. It allows you to control the heat and air conditioning in your house and things like that. And unlike Google Assistant or Alexa and all the rest, it stays inside the Home Assistant system. So you're not having all this information go back outside of your country or outside of your house. You can also set up a security system using a webcam. If there's anything that moves coming into your front door, it can send you a picture of that. It can record that for you, so you can have your own security system. Now, because this is all open source, you can start off with something simple and keep building project after project on top of it. And this would be something that you could sell to a condominium association, to an apartment house, as something that they could make available to their customers as something that they would like to offer as services to them. And there are hundreds of potential products in the future that we could have based on those 400,000 open source projects that exist. And you say, Maddog, this is great. I'd love to do this. I'd love to have my own business doing this. How much is it going to cost me? What is the cost to the students? And the answer is nothing. You're not going to have to pay for anything. Because once the website is set up, every single thing on that website is going to be available to everybody. You're not going to have to log in. You're not going to have to give me your information. Nothing. You can pull down every single thing from that website for free. But what happens if you want to ask a question? Hey, I didn't understand this. I want to ask a question of one of the other people who's doing Project Kalwan. In that case, you're going to have to make a login account because you're going to have something we can answer back to. And to do that, you're going to have to agree to a code of conduct. That means you have to be nice to people. It means you can't belittle them because they're not your race or your religion or your sex or anything else. Because if you are that, we're going to shut you down so fast it will make Elon Musk's hair spin. And then you can ask questions and stuff. You still haven't paid any money. Now the next level is, okay, Maddog, I really love this. I want to be a Project Kalwan professional. How much is that going to cost me? Nothing. But you will have to agree to a professional code of conduct. And what does that mean? That means you treat your customer with respect. That means you go out there faithfully when you say you're going to be there. That means you do your best to solve their problem. That's what a professional is. Doesn't make any difference how much money you charge or whatever. That's professionalism. And that will also gain you access to things that you may need as a professional, such as professional insurance. What happens if you do something wrong and your customer loses money? You need to have an insurance policy for that to protect you and to protect them. And we'll be working with insurance companies around the world to get that. It also means that you'll be able to get discounts on certification programs, because getting a certification will help you with your getting cheaper insurance. Because the better trained you are, the more knowledgeable you are, the less likely you're going to do a mistake. And that's where the Linux Professional Institute comes in. We're one of the certification bodies that gives certification for free software. And we will have discounted tests for you to take this. You don't need to take the test. You don't need to get the insurance. That's up to you. So everything up to this point has been completely free, and this is optional. So we're going to create a community of these professional, Project Cow professionals around the world that will be able to help each other and work on these things. These are going to be independent students' businesses. Project Cow is not going to have any control over your business, unless, of course, you start doing something unprofessional, in which case you will not be able to use the Project Cow trademarks and the Project Cow name. But you can still go and create your own business if you want to. We ask that you have no employees other than yourself and perhaps one or two partners, because we don't want somebody going in there and saying, oh, I'm going to become the Microsoft of Project Cow, or I'm going to become the Oracle of Project Cow. If you become the Oracle of Project Cow, my ghost will show up in your bedroom at night. Okay? And that all the revenues that come from your business are going to be yours. You don't have to share them with some group of stockholders or things like that. You don't have to share them with managers who don't do nothing. You'll be able to keep that money and put it in your pocket, and of course pay taxes on it. And you'll be expected to help other Project Cow professionals who are outside of your local jurisdiction. So this is a very local business. We want you, as the Project Cow professional, to be able to walk to your different businesses, because we want you to show up, once a week, 4 hours a week, to be able to help them do their backups, set up their systems, look at their error logs, advise them on new software and hardware that they need to make their system better. And this is going to be the value to them. As I mentioned before, we're looking for mentors. We're looking for people in business who have been successful to help some of these students who may be a little unsure of themselves to get started. We want them to be able to, and perhaps from the university in the financial aid office, this could be looked at as another financial aid structure for students coming in. There's a lot of universities, including Drexel, that I graduated from, who are cooperative education universities. They insist that you work in industry before you can graduate. This could be a cooperative education job for those schools. And the mentors will meet with the PCPs once a month. Doesn't have to be more than that, just for a couple hours, just to help them get over the problems they're having. Not technical problems. The mentor does not have to be technical. That's the student's job. But the mentor needs to know about business and needs to know about customers. And as I said, universities could use this as an internship program. And people say, well, mentor, it takes a lot of money to start a business. Not today. In 1969, it took a lot of money. I worked on a computer that had 4,000 16-bit words of memory. You could only run one program at a time. And it cost $500,000 in 1969. That's like $27 million today. That was the computer I started with. But today, I could start learning about Project Cow on this notebook, running Linux right now, because all the software I've mentioned runs on this notebook. And the cost for the students today, working with Debian, getting hardware from existing laptops or old cast-off desktops, is non-existent really. And the prototypes for the hardware and software already exist. What about marketing? In the old days, you had to do marketing through magazines and stuff like that, but today you can do marketing through social media, do marketing through your church, do marketing through your local business groups like the Kiwanis or the Rotary Club and things like that. You can market to them because this is local marketing. and you only need 6 customers. What about the hardware? You make the customer buy the hardware. The money for the hardware comes out of the customer's pocket, not yours. It doesn't have to go through your business. And the prototypes are low cost anyway. And if you want to expand your business, there's a very interesting thing you can do. It used to be done in the old days. It's called friends and family. You go to your friends and family, you say, hey, you lend me some money, I'll write you a contract, you lend me some money, and in such a period of time, I will pay you back with better interest than you get from the bank. And because they know you, they'll say, no way. No, because they know you, they say, we will do this. And they will be happy to do it. So when is all of this going to happen? We have had several pilots of this so far, and we learned something from each pilot. And today, you all can go out and start learning about these software, start learning about Odoo, start learning about, coding. And by the way, if you learn about coding, you can have a really honking, multimedia system at home. It's really fun, okay? And you can learn about all these things. I'll be around the next 2 days. You can talk to me about your questions or issues and things like that, and take pictures. And then we're going to have a soft launch on June the 24th. By that time, the website will be up and working, and we're going to have pilot groups working. I'd love to have a pilot here in Mexico. And then the full launch is on July the 4th. And so with that, if we have any time, I can answer. But we can answer questions. But I'll be around for 2 days to answer questions. Okay. So, thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, John. Thank you. The university wants to say thank you for sharing your knowledge with all of us. El Festival de Software Libre y el rector de CUSEA, Luis Gustavo Padilla Montes, te envía esta constancia en agradecimiento.